Hello everybody, Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life with Purity. And today I want to talk a little bit about the effects of media and algorithms on different subsets of our population. So what I'm getting at is over the last several years, decades if you will, our educational institutions have worked very hard to change the dynamics and the direction of what virtue means in our culture and society, in our practices amongst, our relationships, our business dealings, all these other things. Well, what they did is they knew that if they went after the young women, they would be the most disruptive in the culture, as they usually are. They have a tendency to whine, complain, and end up sort of getting what they want if they find out if they just complain and be as stubborn as possible about it. We just called them being a bitch. But if they do that, they end up getting what they want. And they've been taught and they've been rewarded by these things many, many times over the years. So that is pretty much entrenched as a pattern of behavior, gratification. How do I get what I want without working for it? So they've sort of set that into the cast that's been made here. So they got the young girls, and with that went a lot of the young men. But the young men are walking away from that because they're saying, no, this is bullshit. This goes against me. I don't feel right doing this. I'd rather be alone than suffer through a night with you or a life with you. And this is what's going on. We're having this huge pulling away of our young people and how they identify. They're identifying as these individual, capable people, but they're not finding any kind of connections with each other. And so they're entrenching themselves in this isolation. And the girls more so than the boys. The boys are basically reacting to the girls' designs that every guy has to be over 6 foot tall, has to, be incredibly handsome, has to make, 6 figures a year, maybe 7. These are just ridiculous expectations that's going on. And it's all being fed by TikTok shit and stuff like that goes on in our world. And everyone says, oh, there's no problem with that. There's no problem with that. One of the people said, just wait for it. It's not done yet. Just wait for it. So they got the young people in the oven kind of baking, if you will, right now. And things are going to react the way society and the news cycle sort of takes it. So they're ready to go off anytime. They're like one of these volcanoes, that's always smoking, and you never know what can happen. So we've got the young people are pretty well in the oven, baked up, but now they got to go after the old folks, and they're trying to resurrect that no kings thing again. I don't know if something like that's going on this weekend. I don't care. I find it comical. But why are so many people, 90-some%, if not more, are older people over the age of 55, people who are alone, maybe didn't have children or their kids are gone, and they don't really have anything to matter in their life anymore, or maybe they're women who never had children and they were never able to assign their love or their attention to another individual, and so they got left out of that natural response that goes on in the female brain. And so they need to take care of something. And so they're grabbing onto whatever they can to be the mother of it and to protect it and guide it. And so we have so many of these people out there going through this, and the folks in the media and with these messaging centers, they've understood. They've got the psychiatric science working on their side. They've been going at this for a long time. They've had the psychologists, they've had the psychiatrists, they'd have everybody working on this to try to change people's thinking. And so they've been working on your brain with the messaging, changing the meaning of words, trying to decide who has more moral authority in a situation than another. All these things should be relatively, independent of outside causes, they're all linking them together now. So how you react to this social mania going on depends on whether or not you're a good person or not. So they've tried to, put a ranking to things, or say that this is more important than that one, and so their hierarchy of things is totally different than your normal workaday person. But this whole no kings thing is really hypocritical, and I think that by going through their process of protesting, they're showing just how much of a hypocrisy it is, because this is a real king's moment, or you had a despot at the head like they had in Iran, you wouldn't be able to do any of this. This would not even be a potential thing to even get out of your car for on a Saturday. There's just no way. You'd end up dead in a moment. So for all these people to go to these things, party, have this sort of group therapy thing, and then go back home and then continue their, bitchy parade, that's all up to them. But they have to understand, and they're going to be the last ones to realize it, that they've been manipulated by the media intentionally. And so they know how to trip your, what we want to say, your compassion and empathy triggers, because they've changed the meaning of the moral code. And so now they're driving home these things into those brains. And with that, they're not just getting the female brain, they're getting the non-committed male brain going on with this too. The guys who really aren't men, but they're males, and they're counterparts to these other women who've gotten baked. And so these guys want to get along, and they don't want to be having something funny being put in their cookies. So they go along and say, yes, dear. They may vote differently, but they're out there with them saying, yes, dear, because men are afraid of, shit getting put in their cookies. So over the years, this has always kind of been the tactic of propaganda. Now, there have been good uses and there have been bad uses. And I'll talk about a couple of situations here. But before I get off of that, I want to warn older people about what you watch on the internet these days. And so many older people that I've found, and I'm going to say, folks over the age of 45, they're not as cynical as they need to be. Young people are very, very cynical. And so they don't trust most anything. So they're always fact-checking all the time. So we've always got fact-checking going on by our younger people. But our older people aren't as cynical. They tend to believe what they see and they hear. And our media people and our indoctrinators know this. And so now they're going after the older people with these algorithms. And they're putting all this stuff out there. But by far and away, our people over the age of 45 cannot distinguish in the moment whether something is AI or if it's real. Because the AI is getting to be so good, and a lot of these people just, are listening to it. They're not realizing that what they're getting is basically an indoctrination video. It isn't getting truth. It's getting someone's opinion, trying to bolster their moral ranking that I talked about. And so they're working on your brain in that way too. But most people, I'd say over the age of 45, can't tell the difference right at the outset if something is AI or not. And they're falling victim to a lot of things right now, a terrible amount of things. And this is going to be something that's going to need to be addressed. I think AI has great possibilities. I think this is something that's evil and cynical. The kids know it because they use it. And so they don't look at this stuff. They go, oh, that's bullshit. Nobody believes that stuff. Well, your mom and dad and grandparents do. Because they didn't grow up in the same era as you did, and they're not as cynical. And so I think that a lot of them are basically blissfully ignorant, and they're just trying to get along and get some information. So what has happened is now we've got not just our kids have been victims of the system, now our older people are becoming victims of the system. And they're being used. They're being used in a way that is not pure. they're being used in a way that is demonic and evil, I would submit. Now, I had told everyone last year that Mary had told me that the devil was unleashing more demons than ever in the history of the universe in an attempt to drive home the chaos and destruction that he wants so much to bring down this world. So I had stated that, and I wanted to share that with everybody. And now it seems that finally the Vatican's catching wind of it. So they're calling in all of the exorcists from around the world to talk about, exorcising things, getting rid of these demons in the world. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of work. But it's going to take people, I think, who are bonded with the commitment to the outcome. And they aren't going to walk away through it. Because I've been involved in exorcism. And I've been at the target of an exorcism. And I got to tell you, you don't want any part of an exorcism. Not in this life or the next. Exorcism and demons is not something you want to get involved with. Guarantee you. Stay away from it. Don't play with it. Don't think you can handle it on your own. I got to tell you, folks, you will lose. They can't kill you, but they'll make you want to kill yourself. And that's the goal of the demon, is to get you to kill yourself. And right now, when I said we had all these demons unleashed, we are in an epidemic of young people doing terrible things to themselves. Now, I'm of a certain age right now that I look around me and I start to see fewer and fewer of people that I grew up with or worked with or hung out with or those types of things. I'm getting older. People are dying. They're dying all around me. So I've taken up the habit. I check the obituaries. I've become that guy. And so I'm looking around and trying to see, who is still left. Did anyone that I know, pass away? Did anything happen? I want to know. I care. Well, I'm seeing too many young people in these listings. And it's just terrible. Everyone says, we can't take a lot. There's a reason why it's happening. There's a reason why there's such an uptick. But people are being too compassionate, too empathetic to do anything about it. Because they say, it's okay. No, it's not. You're messing with kids' minds. These are natural brains. These kids were made perfect by God. And then somebody at the schools or somebody in their family or some of these kids and made them question the truth by trying to deliver them an untruth. Maybe they say, if you do it this way, you'll be more popular. People won't think that you're fat and ugly. The kind of things that every young girl, I guess, goes through when she's younger. All these things. Everyone just wants to be loved. They want to be accepted. They want to be noticed when they come in. Well, they've gone after the kids, and it's not working. It's a destructive mechanism. The Vatican's finally figured out that we got a problem with demons in the world, okay? And they would do a lot, I think, by just being accountable and taking accountability and admitting things and holding people accountable and not kicking the can down the road on stuff. This Amoris Laetitia stuff that they're going to vote on or go over with Francis, he's bringing in all the bishops or all the heads of the bishops and stuff like that in the different countries. Why the hell even have any rules at all? It's just so messed up. This slippery slope that's going on, it's messed up thinking. And this is why I say, part of the reason why I think that the Roman Catholic Church is in a major decline, and they just don't want to admit it to the world. And this is why I think that there will be the Western Catholic Church coming on board. It's already, I think, going on underneath the ground, so to speak. We have the SSPX. We have a lot of other underground, Latin masses going on. And it's not just the Latin Mass people that are moving towards this. It's the people that want accountability. and don't want to see their church turning into an LGBTQ haven and then moving towards having women priests, as this Pope has suggested. It's not going to work for a lot of the folks. They're going to walk away. And it's happening. And it's okay. It's not the first time that the Catholic Church has split. Hell, you got the Eastern Orthodox, you got the Eastern Church, you got the SSPX is kind of rebelling right now, as they probably should. They got to push back against this fakery that's been going on. So we have to have a discussion about that. I know a lot of people don't like it, but you got to realize, there's been a misinformation program that's been going on for a couple of decades now. So we need to get this corrected. We need to get this somebody answer to it. So let's talk about a good use of when these media type of things have worked. Now, Martin Luther, who started the Reformation and wanted to get into that, he had problems with Christmas. And he was having some issues with the Feast of St. Nicholas on the 6th of December, and that was when all the gifts were always given. It was always the exchange of the Feast of St. Nicholas on the 6th. They still had Christmas on the 25th. But what ended up happening was they ended up merging the two celebrations together, and then because they were saying that it's not Nicholas necessarily that gives the gifts, but it's the Son of God that gives the gifts. So there was like, it's not like that, it's like this. So everyone kind of went that way. So anyway, the two things merged, and so you had all this materialism entered into the Christmas December 25th celebration. And so that happened at that time. And then, so people were celebrating Christmas and trading gifts on the 25th. And we ended up coming into the Industrial Revolution. And during the Industrial Revolution, a lot of people, especially social writers and things like that, saw the problems that were going on and the abuses of the workers and the children, especially at that time. With the work laws and labor laws. And so he saw that there was this real problem in this lack of concern or interest in the poor people. So he set about to write a novel, a work of fiction, to try to address some of this. And that was when he started off with Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And he was using Ebenezer Scrooge as being the label for the capitalists, the industrialists, and all like that, and Bob Cratchit and them as being the underserved, lower class, the workers, the people who were being abused, and an indifference to the sufferings, and that was portrayed in the physical suffering there of young Tiny Tim. And so Dickens set about to make this sort of political statement about the Christmas Carol, was showing this difference in the two worlds that was going on, how one was so easy and could be taken care of quite carefully, didn't have problems with money and things like that, although it was there. They just didn't realize it. And then the people who were on the lower end, who didn't have much of anything except a kind smile to share with each other on the holidays, if that's all they had. But the Christmas Carol ended up being a driving force, actually, which kind of exacerbated the concerns that he had about the marketplace work conditions, child labor, because as the Christmas holiday got more and more lifted up, there was more and more demand for consumer pleasures. And so until they got the work laws worked out, the children still suffered, kind of this, because the Christmas Carol kind of, amplified Christmas a little bit, so that amplified the problem before the problem got solved. So that was like mid last century, or century before, 2 centuries ago. I got to remember in the 2000s now. And then in 1928, something else happened which really kicked it into superdrive. And that was Coca-Cola and their Coca-Cola ads, when they brought in the modern concept of the rosy-cheeked Santa Claus and not the older, earthy kind of guy, carrying around the knapsack and, kind of rustic looking. You didn't know if he just came out of that set of woods or that set of woods. But the new modern Coca-Cola version of Santa Claus was tremendously popular. One of the most profitable or illustrative ad campaigns ever in the history of mankind. With that red Coke button label and the rosy cheeks of the Santa Claus, we were off to the races, and Christmas took off like it's never seen before. And so the materialism went crazy. And so all these expectations, they started measuring the markets about upticks in sales and retail sales and all this kind of stuff. And it really, came to light that this was a big thing. But this was how they used the media at that time for something I might say was an ultimate good. Now, has it maybe gone too far? Well, in some ways, yeah. And it probably needs to be dialed back. And I think a lot of that stuff will probably happen naturally as people's ability to buy consumer goods kind of comes down a bit. And then we're going to have to prioritize those things that really matter the most. And this is where a lot of our change in our future society is coming from. So I talked about a fairly good use. So it brought attention. He brought attention to a problem in the culture, in the world, in the workplace. But he also then brought an elevation to the celebration of the Christmas season, and what it means also to be thoughtful and careful and caring, I should say, about other people, and that there is redemption for people. So even Ebenezer Scrooge found redemption. And this is the promise of hope and also of continuing on. Don't give up on these people. Just stay with it. Something will happen. So let's talk about a bad use of the media and things like that. And this is a very recent one. This one happened just a couple days ago. And this has to do with the International Olympic Committee. They have now, in their ultimate wisdom, decided that there's a difference between men and women. Duh. Well, this after they let a trans man go in and beat the shit out of women at the last Olympics. It was painfully obvious to people that that was not a woman, but they still let him compete and go in and badger the heck out of these women and hurt them. I think the man should be brought up on charges for abuse, and we'll see what happens with it. Well, he's not given his medal back. Who cares? They're not that expensive. But they have now decided in their ultimate wisdom, they're going to check to make sure that women are women competing on the women's side and that the men are men on the other side. A trans guy, he can go compete against the men. If his chromosomes line up that way, that's the party you play with. Okay? Fair is fair. The truth is the truth. Or is it? It all depends what the media has to say sometimes. So let's talk about that. So when this news came out, what did the media say? Well, Fox News stated that basically the Olympics would now mandate athletes compete in their chromosomal group. XX will compete against XX, XY will compete against XY. It doesn't matter how you portray yourself, it matters who you are. And so Fox came out and basically said the truth about things. The matter of fact, this is what the story says. That's just Fox. What did the other outlets have to say? CNN, MS Now, there's a few others in there that I'm not going to get into them, but all the major outlets put out. They all described it as a ban on trans. The Olympic Committee never said anything about a ban on trans. They just said that competitors would have to compete in their chromosomal groups, or how they really are at birth. Are they male or female? There is a difference. There was never anything about a ban on trans. Not a single combination of those words ends up in the statement. But The media knows that that is the trigger that they have to use. They can't tell the truth. They have to deal with triggers. So this is a bad use. This is evil. This is not good. This is not purity. So you need to be smart about what AI is and where they're going, because they are playing for keeps. In the meantime,